What is up? We are live, hopefully. Let me know if you guys can hear me. I am. I think we can hear me. So exciting stuff. Was a big new comic book day this past week. Got a bunch of books from there, but today is the first day of Black History Month, and I wanted to talk about this book, which is The Kids Are All Fight. This has a special appearance by Static Shock, known by many, known by me. That's where I was introduced to the character. Is introduced into the mainline DCU here in the last page and a half. And pretty important stuff. I think some people were upset about sort of the nature of his introduction, considering that the Milestone universe over the past couple years have been doing their own independent kind of like thing, kind of separate from the DCU. But I kind of felt this coming. If you had been reading the new history of the DC universe from Mark Waid, that actually laid the groundwork for the sort of Milestone universe to be a part of the mainline DC universe. Like it literally has it a part of the main timeline. Now that was supposed to clear things up, that book, but that book honestly still is, as the DC universe continuity is, complicated. So I wanted to talk about this. Also, someone I have met through Instagram and TikTok, JP, they created sort of like a campaign to bring awareness around the fact that it has been over 1,000 days since DC has had a mainline ongoing book starring a black character, which is insane when you think about all the characters in that universe, whether it be Black Lightning, John Stewart. John Stewart had a book, but that was, a maxi series. So it has been, and when he brought it up, I was like, wait, wasn't I Am Batman like a year or two ago? No, it was way longer than that. COVID really fried my brain when it comes to like my concept of time. So yeah, I like the book overall with Jeremy Adams, but I completely understand the frustration of particularly like DC where they have the Milestone universe. And with Milestone is a little bit complicated because they don't really own those characters outright. Yes, they own them, but it is complicated because Milestone, the creators of that company, whether it be Dennis Cowan, you have also there's a couple other people that, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm blanking. Oh, Jay, what's good? What's good? One second. Of course, Dwayne McDuffie. I literally had a brain fart like right then and there. I apologize, but yeah, with Dwayne McDuffie, he's passed, but his widow has controlling interest in Milestone, so they just can't do whatever they want with that character. Black Lightning did have a series, but that was a mini series. So what JP was bringing attention to was the fact that there's no ongoing series. There are ongoing series in the Absolute Universe. Wow, in the Absolute Universe, and that is the Absolute Green Lantern. Obviously, that's featuring Joe Mullen, and that book is amazing. But they don't. And then also with the next level stuff, there's nothing that we know of now that features a black creative team with a black character featuring on it in an ongoing capacity. In DC, I think people again are frustrated not just because of their sort of like history and wealth of characters, but it seems like every February and has become like a joke on like online and TikTok and Twitter, the fact that the Milestone characters and the black characters in the DC universe are really only February exclusives. You can only really expect a new story from them during Black History Month, which is tragic but also true in the case of some characters. But I am excited about the prospect of the Milestone universe being in the mainline universe because now hopefully we can see more of that. And hopefully it means that DC is on a path of getting to where they need to be with these characters, because we do have the Batman Beyond and Static crossover, but that is kind of like an Elseworld story. And when Static is introduced here, and also it's on the cover of the new DC universe. The new history of the DC universe is coming out with a kind of like a milestone book at the end of the month, and that one is going to be the Dakota incident, which is going to be really exciting. And on the cover there is it was kind of like a hint. I assumed at first that it was just gonna, like, they showed this version of Static because historically, like, Static took off when the Static Shock cartoon came out. But if you can see, Static has his Static Shock costume, which is, to a lot of people like myself, where we know that character from. So I am excited at the prospect of them going to the classic Static. Well, classic to me, because that's when I was introduced to the character. Like, when you think about it, Static has a different look when he first appeared in the Milestone books, where, you know, he had like the all black, he had the hat, all that kind of stuff. But I think what JP was bringing attention to is something really important, because again, people, including creators, were like, you are right. And again, is one of those things that you don't sometimes think about. It's not on front of mind. But then when you sit down and you start thinking, like, wait a minute, it has been like 3-4 years since the new Batman that had Jace Fox as Batman, and that was an ongoing. And that really only got an ongoing because probably the fact that he was supposed to be the new Batman, that's why it's called the new Batman, after the initial like 5G future state kind of like thing. But that obviously changed course after Dan Didio left DC. So yeah, I mean, it's really important. And I think something like Wonder Man, which came out last week, that shows you like, hey, like, maybe you need to swap someone. Like, I don't know. I think it's something that needs to bring attention to. They did have a Mr. Terrific series, but it was a miniseries, and that is the kind of issue, the crux of it. I do think DC has a history of like, hey, if a miniseries does really well, we will extend it. They did that with Swamp Thing. They did that with Green Arrow. Yes, Mark. The point is more of an ongoing, and what is an ongoing in today's day and age? But I do think they do have to commit to a character for a longer period of time. Hey, we're on Harley Quinn issue 61. We're probably going to get to Poison Ivy issue 100. And you could say, well, Chris, those books sell. Yes, but I do think the company should put effort into really creating these stories so that, hey, you know, if they want to do a movie, they have a wealth of stories to do. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, like, you saying like people not caring enough. I would say it's more, yes, like, sales are always going to translate to them potentially keeping those books ongoing. Like you said, there was the Black Lightning, there was the Jon Stewart story. There's all these different things that were there. And I do think there is a prospect of like, hey, if we are going to ask for these things when they do come along, like the new history of the DC Universe Dakota incident, which is FOC is tomorrow for that book, you should support it. But I would also say that the sort of place for these books, they should kind of like, hey, like, how do we get I don't know, these stories into a bookstore? Or maybe, hey, the single issue format for certain characters doesn't necessarily work. So why don't we just go maybe straight to bookshops and that kind of thing? What the solution is and stuff is not, I am well aware that, hey, if a book is not selling and the finances doesn't make sense, sure. But I do think when a company does have certain values or they're trying to push something, they can let something lead at a loss for a little bit. Yeah, Mark, for sure. Justin was good. Yes, Troy. I think if they create longer arcs, there'd be something there. And again, people have to show up when they eventually give you these things, because that's sadly why they keep them February exclusives. They're like, okay, we want to have a book with these characters that are obviously important to the DC universe. Hey, where in the budget? Where does it fit? When can it sell? And all that. But I think Static has always been a missed opportunity for DC, and they know it too. That's why they created the, the Static and Batman Beyond crossover and stuff like that. And like Dennis Cowan right now is the main artist on Nightwing. Like, hey, why don't we like pay you to work on the character you co-created, and you can get paid on both ends, the royalties and all that kind of stuff. So again, what the solution is, I'm sure there's a lot. If you take that helmet, please leave New Jersey alone. I will try. Hey Chris, hey man, excited to chat about this. The thing I want to know, how vocal have black creators in the space been about this? To your point, were they getting the opportunities to pitch for next level? I think some people have been like, I don't know, like exactly like vocal, like screaming from the rooftops, because again, they're freelancers. But I have seen people comment. I saw Mo Hampton comment on someone's story about this, and I've seen Stephanie Williams talk about it. Who knows who pitched on what books for next level? But I do think, hey, if you want to, granted, next level, sort of the draw of it and what's exciting about it is that they got creators. I was like, hey, what do you want to do? And whereas before at DC and presumably Marvel, they'll go to a creator and be like, hey, do you have a pitch for this character? And sometimes, because that creator wants to work or whatever, even if they're not necessarily passionate about that character, they will do that. But I do think in this case where they don't have, or like, for example, hey, Al Letson, that Mr. Terrific series was amazing. Hey, the movie is out, well, came out last year. It would have been a perfect opportunity to be like, hey, let's make this an ongoing until we can't support it anymore. Like, that book was fantastic. It was tied into All In. He's a leader in the new Justice League Unlimited. There's the Terrific 10. So there was so much to kind of give Mr. Terrific and an opportunity to kind of like, hey, maybe who knows if we could get this past 12 issues, but let's invest in it, because I think especially what Al Letson was doing with that first like 5 issues, I was down for more. I was supporting that book. I was buying that book. But also JP made a good point. It's like buying the book is not enough because of the nature of comic book stores. When you buy a book off the shelf, that doesn't necessarily count as a sale because it's really all pre-orders. And that's kind of like where a lot of the sort of finances and sort of the way things work in comic books is a little bit broken, because it's like, hey, maybe something does catch fire a little bit later or in trade, but by then that book is long canceled and the company has moved on. You should leave New Jersey because you have about 8 months until Magneto blows it up. Yeah, Scott Snyder, I think he did an interview with a couple people. I think there was the sketched interview and stuff. I would love to get the chance to interview him as well and maybe ask him this question. This stuff actually helps me because I want to eventually get into making comics. Do it. Do it. It's something I've always wanted to do, but honestly, like this content creating thing, you have to just start. You really have to start, because in your head, you're always going to be like waiting for that perfect time, and there's no such thing as a perfect time. Yeah, no, Scott was very adamant about how creator forward these recent initiatives have been, so it just feels like, okay, so no one has been pitching black characters. You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. And also too, like, are they going to black and brown creators and seeing what they want to do? I do think they are elevating creators, because if you look at the Absolute universe, Green Arrow is going to be written by Pornsak Pinochet. And then also Scott is co-writing the Absolute Catwoman with Shay Grayson, and they are a creator of color. So there are like aspects of like, okay, like Scott's made an initiative, but when it comes to next level, hey, like, it's cool to see, like, I've been waiting forever for Etrigan the Demon series. So like, hey, I'm excited about that, but where's the Static? Whereas, and they tried doing a cyborg with Mo Hampton a couple years ago. That was like 5 issues. That was good too. So they really just have to, again, if they wanted to, they could. And I think that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at as well. Like there are these other factors and stuff like that. Like, hey, we have to support it. We have to buy these things. We not just have to scream online, but we actually have to show them with our dollar that we want these books, that we want more Black Lightning, we want more Static, we want more Vixen, we want more Rocket and Icon. And these are characters, sadly, like they don't have enough out there. Like, for example, one book that was really good from the Dakota and the new Milestone universe that they were doing was the Shadow Cabinet. That book was so good, from like Joe Illidge, Dennis Cowan, Chris Cross. That book was amazing. And it was only like 4 issues. 4 issues. And then 8 months later now, we're kind of getting a follow-up with the DC Universe Dakota incident. So it's like, how do you build anything? How do you build anything if, for example, for me, who really liked that series, and I will be honest, I bought those straight off the shelves at Midtown Comics. I don't really have a pull. I have a pull at Everyone Comics. So I have to call them tomorrow morning and be like, hey, new history of the DC Universe. I was going to buy it at Midtown Comics anyway, but I want to have that pre-order at that store to support it. But we have to support it as well as sort of like, again, raise awareness. Dreamer, what's good? Side note, follow Justin, I Don't Beat Games. If you know, you know. Also, Unlucky Dreamer. They have been doing really great videos overall. Dreamer has like been going crazy when it comes to comic book videos. It makes me feel like, damn, I'm slacking. I need to get back on it. Chris, yeah, I pre-ordered my cover D of the new History Dakota book. Probably will double dip with a cover A. The cover A is so good. Actually, I have... One second. Let's bring this over here. Yeah, so this is the cover A. The cover A is dope. Then you have... There's a couple really dope covers. There's Superman, an Icon. I don't love this cover, mainly because it's like, it feels more like a Trinity cover than an actual Milestone one. I know it's a variant and it's supposed to be, an homage to, an event, but don't love that cover. This is the cover D I think you were talking about. Yeah, this is awesome. This is awesome. Icon and Rocket. Hardware, Static. I just love this Static look. Again, I'm biased because I grew up on the cartoon, but it is fantastic. And then Rocket. I love Rocket. People complain a lot about season 4 of Young Justice, and I'm one of those people that sometimes complain. But the story that Rocket had in that, and where they had her as a mother that was going through a lot and stuff like that, amazing. Again, untapped potential that DC has when it comes to all these characters, and they're just not taking advantage of it, and it's frustrating. Me and Troy, Blue Sirens, we once kind of like held a comic book club and stuff like that, and what I was sharing is that, like, when I was a kid, things like seeing the Spawn movie, growing up, like, I am Puerto Rican and Colombian. So even like me, there wasn't that much representation outside of like John Leguizamo showing up in Spawn. So I used to sort of really connect when I would see characters like Blade, like Spawn, Michael J. White as Spawn, like those characters. It felt like, hey, like this is what I see, like I feel seen. You know what I mean? So I think it is important. And even last week with Wonder Man, what was cool about Wonder Man is that they race swapped Simon Williams, but it was actually important to the like they made it important to the character in the show. Like, it was really dope to see that they had like those blue barrels at the party where they were throwing all the clothes in it, presumably to send it back to their family in Haiti and stuff. Those are like the little things that make you feel seen, that make you more connected to a character, and it's just missing from DC. Marvel it's not doing much better, but they do have a Storm book that's been going on for a really long time. They have obviously Miles. That book is coming to an end, but that went to 42 issues. And I don't know what the sales are on the Miles Morales book, but they've clearly identified, hey, Miles Morales is really important to us. We want a Miles Morales book going at all times because we have the movie. He's in Spidey and his amazing friends. He's got the game. So it's like we always, no matter what is going on, no matter who's buying this book, we have to keep that series going. And DC needs that. They kind of did that with Jaime. When Jaime had the movie, and honestly, the reason the book is not still going is because the movie, obviously, sadly, did not do. And I did my part. I took my whole family. That I'm still financially recovering from a Blue Beetle mania. I got my popcorn bucket up there. I have a Blue Beetle figure over there. I bought that book. I interviewed the creator. So I did my part. But the movie didn't do well, but they still had like 2 series. They extended it. They gave it an ongoing, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like there is Static in particular could be that character that they invest in, that they're like, okay, like no matter what's going on, we always have to have a Static book going. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, whatever's going on. So I think it's just a point of effort. And if they had that effort, if there was a book that was 20 issues in, maybe some people that were Wednesday Warriors would be like, you know what? Like, I usually don't buy Static books because they're always miniseries and it's hard to invest in it. But because this has been going for such a long time, because of the word of mouth, I think I'm going to pick it up now. And I think there should be a little bit of that. But like I said, I'm well aware that we have to support these things. Dreamer says, I really only have to pre-order Dark Horse or IDW, but not even imagine. Yeah, like with those books, you really want to pre-order because it really is important. Like, doing the podcast, you realize, like, when you think about sales, you're like, oh, these are like in the millions or whatever. But like when it comes to comic books, like literally like a few thousand are the difference between this being an ongoing and this getting canceled. Watch Wonder Man. It's so good. Maybe someday we'll get that next Spider-Verse movie. Yeah, when I'm 50. Yeah, comic sales were done better. Well, the thing is, like, you can only get single issues at a comic book shop. And in the US, I think there is like 1,200, which seems like a lot, but the US is a really big place. And there are people, I'm really lucky. I live in New York City. It's easy to go to Midtown Comics. They always have books on the shelves and all that kind of stuff. And there's plenty of LCSs that you could kind of like pick out. But there's people that like have to drive like 2 hours to a comic book store. 2 hours or an hour. You know what I mean? Like, imagine that. You have to drive an hour, get there, drive an hour. That's your whole day, man. Like, especially now, like with the weather and how crazy the world is and how expensive everything is, $5-6 for a single issue, you spend 10 and you could get yourself a compact comic. You know what I mean? Like, so it is a little bit frustrating, and there is a business aspect that the comic companies can be doing better to better support these things. And even DC president Jim Lee acknowledges that manga is better than comics in some ways. And I think it's not necessarily like the writing or the like stories. There are great stories in comics. It's just they don't know how to get it in front of the right people. There are certain books, like if they were geared towards children or a certain demographic, hey, kids are not at a comic book store. They're at a bookstore. They're at the book fair. Like that's where you want to kind of like have your energy. And manga is in all those places. They're at a Five Below or whatever. They're at a Target. I can't buy a single issue of a comic at a Target. I could buy a manga there. Don't get me started. There's a reason why Blue Beetle didn't do well. A lot of people get that creators were stuck in a rough position. The strike was going on, and legally, yeah, honestly, but there were some movies that did well during that time, during the strikes. I'm really disappointed that we didn't support that movie, as it's so good, and yeah, it's frustrating. And even though they announced the animated series, it's like, with the way the DCU is going, who knows if we'll ever get that animated series. I feel like Mr. Terrific should be that guy right now. Got the buzz from the movie. He's always involved in big events and Justice League stories right now. He's become the go-to big brain in the verse. Yes, Mr. Terrific would be perfect for that spot too. Especially like you said, that he is such a big part of the DC universe in the DCU, the movies, and then also in the mainline comics. So it's like, yes, there should be a character like, hey, no matter what's going on, we have to have this going on. Out of curiosity, do you know anything about Dynamite Comics? They have some Disney comics. Was curious if they were worth reading. The Disney comics I have not read, but all of interesting thing since we're talking about DC Comics, Dynamite has the license to a lot of Warner Brothers properties that are not DC superheroes. So they have Space Ghost, they have Supernatural, they have the Ben 10 comic, which is gonna come out. That's gonna be insane. The all of those are really good. Captain Planet. Where's mine? I probably have it somewhere here. I should have my props more neatly organized. But the Supernatural comic is amazing. Is like if you love Supernatural, it's amazing. So Dynamite, they do good work. If you're the type that buys comics because you like TNA, they have that. That's Red Sonja and and Vampirella books. They have variants for days on that end. So if you are a gooner, that's for you. But they do put out good comics. I do pick up every time it's out the Supernatural book. They have a Valentine's Day special that's supposed to come out I think next week in a couple days. So that's pretty cool. So Dynamite's good. I feel like the pre-order sale method is an outdated concept. Yes, everyone thinks it's an outdated concept, but because their main customer is the comic shop, and it would just be too hard to pull a plug on all of that, or at least too expensive to change the way they deliver these comics. I think unless they were independent companies where they weren't owned by mega conglomerates that they have to get the okay for everything on, I think they're still going to be trapped in that business model. Yeah, the Ben 10 comic got delayed again, which sucks. Yeah, Mr. Terrific has been teed up for it. Like, it just, it's weird that there's not, they didn't, I felt like, especially with issue 3, that it had like a variant with the movie version of it and how well spoken about that book was going. I was hoping that they would extend that book, but who knows? Who knows what is going on at the offices at DC? Do they drop stuff often? Like every week, man. They even do like blind bags. They like every week I'm in there. There's a new like Disney comic or something like that. So, I don't like if you actually want to know more about the Disney stuff. BJ Kicks, who does Comics Are Dope, they review a lot of their kids comics, and so if you're looking for like more in depth, like because I'm gonna be honest, I have not read any of those. I thought about picking up Gargoyles because I love Greg Weisman and I grew up on Gargoyles, but I'm gonna be honest, I've only read the Warner Brothers licensed stuff. Oh, another one, Johnny Quest, the Johnny Quest one with I think it was Joe Casey. That book was awesome. That reminds me, I have to pick up the trade because I picked up like the first 2 issues and I didn't finish it. But those first 2 issues, it was like old man Johnny Quest, which was insane. Such a good book. Yes, Space Ghost for the win. Space Ghost is really good. That's David Pepos, who also does the Captain Planet. So again, when it comes to licensed comics, Dynamite has been killing it lately. They even do Thundercats, which has been going for like forever. I think that's what kind of kicked off a lot of this license era for them. They have like a Terminator comic. So Dynamite does some good stuff. Gargoyles has been solid. Pad reviewed it for us and speaks highly on it. I think what's coming? Did that come out last week, or there was a Gargoyle Fantastic Four crossover? I think. I wanted to check it out, but I didn't. I wonder if I can somehow get them to collab with me. Honestly, Justin, I don't think it'd be that hard, especially like with your following on like Threads and stuff like that. I think Troy reached out to them about like setting up an interview and stuff like that, and we just couldn't get in contact with the right person, or maybe they didn't respond or anything like that. But they have worked with like creators and stuff like that. I know like Near Mint, which is Omar. Um, that is they've done stuff with them. They've done stuff with BJ Kicks. Yeah, I mean, I will say though, like a lot of like the indie publishers are in a weird spot because of the bankruptcy of Diamond. So who knows what the budgets are for collabs and stuff. And anytime I do, I did post I mean, it was more like it was a pretty big, like in my opinion, thing about like the Supernatural comic. It got like a bunch of views on TikTok, and I tried to tag them and stuff, but they've never reached out to me. Not that I was like, oh my god, I'm only doing this for you to guys collab with me. So there is, I do think they do work closely with some content creators and stuff like that. And like I said, the books are good, at least the ones I've read, and I'm really excited for that Ben 10 comic. So maybe I'll catch up to Unlucky Dreamer once the Ben 10 comic comes up. I'll definitely be making a video on that. But yeah, overall, like I said, really crazy that DC has not had an ongoing in that long in the mainline DC universe for a black character, because like I said, time passes and you're just like living your life, and then you sit down and think about all the time that's passed, and you're like, wait a minute. Actually, yeah, the new Batman was that long ago. But on the positive side, I am really excited about the new DC Universe Dakota Incident. That actually is going to be really cool. The Sway cover. Yeah, so, and then, yeah, I mean, it's a huge... I thought it was just Stephanie Williams, but the actual... writers on it is Joe Illich, who, like I said, Shadow Cabinet from them was awesome. You have Stephanie Williams, Nicholas Draper Ivy, who is the artist right now on the Batman Beyond and Static crossover. And then also Morgan Hampton. Morgan Hampton is doing, right now they do Green Lantern Corps. They did that Cyborg series from a couple years ago. And then the artists are Carlo Pagular, Valentine DeLeandro, and Edwin Gallman. I think Edwin Gallman was on the Mr. Terrific book, which, like I said, was fantastic. And then, yeah, I am excited. And then I'll just read the solicitation so that... Spinning out of the pages of New History of the DC Universe, uncover an untold moment in DC history where a murder leads to an all-out war between heroes of Dakota City and U.S. government. As their home becomes a battlefield, what must Static, Rocket, and the others sacrifice to keep their loved ones safe? But as heroes fall in the past, the stage is set for their return in the future. Now, that could be them sort of like teeing up a potential new status quo for the Milestone characters to be in the mainline DC universe, and potentially, hey, we get more miniseries, we get more ongoing series. So if that's the case, the reason that we haven't seen that many announcements is because this book has to happen for them to kind of like, because sometimes, honestly, when it comes to the way comics work, solicitations really spoil a lot. They're like, hey, I know what's going to happen in this story because I know this person's on the cover of this. I know this person wins in DCKO because they're on the cover of that book. So it could be, again, the way comic shops work and the way ordering works, it's natural for it to spoil it. So it makes sense that maybe we haven't gotten announcements because this book. And I think Joe Illich has teased that, hey, we are getting more. So definitely tomorrow's Monday, so I'm going to try to reach out actually to some creators and see if maybe can get some interviews going for this book, because I do want to definitely spotlight it. Yeah, I mean, Justin, I'll hit you up about stuff, but I think DC is definitely changing their ways with how they interact with influencers and stuff. I know they commented on one of my reels not too long ago. I know they've been following creators and stuff like that. So I think they are probably gonna be start like collabing with people in a bigger way in both the movies and then also the comic book side of things. I know Marvel doesn't do that much either. Like you see a lot more of like whatnot partnering with like creators online and stuff, but I do think they are switching their strategy in terms of DC, especially if you look at their YouTube channel. We finally got a DC Comics um, Instagram, like an official comics Instagram, so that's cool. Uh, yeah, let's figure out. Justin, I'm always down. Uh, yes. Well, actually, I think Troy doesn't live in New York, so if you want to watch a movie, be with me. But maybe we do a Discord watch party. A combination of Joker and solicits have ruined my hype for DCKO. Listen, I actually like. It was annoying at first, but I did kind of like that Joker twist in DCKO 3. I've had multiple interactions with James Gunn and the Blue Beetle cast. All I ask is for some opportunity when the animated series is out. Honestly, you never know. Like with that manifestation, man. Like I've seen a couple people like honestly like flat out say, "Hey, I'm working towards getting invited um to this premiere or that premiere." And one, they put in the work of like obviously like growing their socials and stuff like that. But you'd be surprised who's watching. They may not like it. They may, so people might be creeping on the side. So just put it out there. I think you've been doing a lot when it comes to the Blue Beetle Battalion. And when Blue Beetle comes around, if they look up the Blue Beetle hashtag on Threads, there'll be one guy that shows up 1,000 times, and it'll be Justin. So I'm sure they're gonna be looking at you when that comes out. Yes, manifesting definitely brings it out. Obviously, verbalizing it and stuff. That's why I wanted to make this live stream to talk about these characters that I love from the Milestone universe, and I want to see more of them. And I think you have to put in the effort to see more of what you want to see in the world. And like I said, this month I'm definitely gonna put in that effort on top of actually buying the book. So appreciate you all. Thank you for joining in this conversation. This, I think, is the most attended live I've had. So I am definitely going to make this a habit of making it Sundays at 7. It's like I'm always off and stuff like that. And we could talk about the last week in DC Comics, which is the thing I'm most well versed in and I could yap about for a while without having to take a break. But really appreciate you guys. Again, if you want the first appearance of Static Shock or Static in the new DC universe, pick up DCKO. The Kids Are All Fight. Jeremy Adams is one of my favorite creators, so I know people had some problems with, the way Static appeared, but I actually like the issue, and I hope that, that is a tease of the new Teen Titans team that we're going to see. So we'll see. Appreciate you guys. Again, like it always feels good when I'm able to talk to people and not, talk to myself. And I'm hopefully getting better at this, and I always find a lot of this stuff creatively fulfilling, whether it be lives, making my short form content, making my longer form videos, or doing the vlogs on my vlog